Okay, I would like to address the recent thing about Simone Biles, if I may. Simone Biles is planning a major comeback. All right, now, I want to talk about how short everyone's memory is and how disgusting I think it is that she's playing a so-called comeback. Now, yes, Simone Biles, I was a huge fan. I spoke to her many times even before she became famous. Okay, I spoke to her over a dozen times personally before she hit it big time. And I was rooting for her in 2016, and she did real good in 2016. I'm not going to lie about that. Now let's continue. In the 2021 Olympiad, because 2020 was the virus, not the virus. Now I renounced all support for Simone in 2020, primarily because she was supporting BLM. Now keep this in mind. The January 6th incident where 90% of guys that went down there did nothing wrong at all, and only 10% of guys that went down there actually broke shit and stole shit. Simone Biles was outraged by that. Okay, fine. You're outraged that a whole bunch of guys are walking through the Capitol and 10% of them are breaking shit and stealing shit. Okay, fine. But you financially support, the BLM terrorists that are burning down black neighborhoods. Hold on, I gotta fix the. Sorry, the stand was off. You financially support the BLM terrorists that are burning, bombing, looting, mostly black neighborhoods. You give them financial support. You are not worthy to go back to the Olympics. In fact, you should have your medals taken away from you. Now, who remembers Jim Thorpe, the Native American master of all sport? Jim Thorpe was a Native American athlete. He was one of the greatest that ever lived. He could do track, field, football, baseball. He mastered every sport you could imagine. Well, he played baseball and football for money at a time when the average baseball football player made minimum wage. They didn't get $1 million contracts for scratching their ass years ago. They had to actually go out and work for minimum wage, and during the off season, they had to take out a second job because they couldn't pay the fucking bills. But because he worked for minimum wage, playing football and baseball professionally, his medals were revoked. And they were finally restored like 60 years later, long after his death. Like, I think last year they were restored. No, more than that. They were restored last year, more than 60 years. But yet, someone who supports BLM, hates cops, their medals are fine. Another thing. We're going to talk about the 72 games for a minute, if we may. The 1972 Munich Games. Yes, I know the terrorist attack. But there was another incident that happened that time between America and Soviet Union. The basketball game was being played. Winner gets gold, loser gets silver. The time ran out with the Americans ahead, so that means Americans win. Wrong. The head of the Olympic basketball, whatever the hell, who had no business overruling the referee, came down from the mountain and said, restart the clock with 3 seconds. How do you fucking do that? So then they played for 10 seconds. Americans are still winning. Okay, they won. No, they didn't win. Now let's talk. Okay, so now the American team said, we're not going to fucking play. And this asshole said, play or forfeit the gold medal. So the coach said, if we lose, we'll contest, but we're not going to lose sitting on our ass. They played, and then when the Russians scored a basket, oh wow, the Russians won. Magically, they won. right? The Americans protested. A panel was convened. There were more communist countries than democratic countries, and the communist countries voted against the Americans. To this day, the Americans will not accept the silver medals. The Americans had to play because by not playing, you forfeit. Okay? Now, let's continue in 1996. In 1996, the Olympic gymnast, once again America and former Soviet Union, Dani Moceanu, daughter of Romanian immigrants from the communist country of Romania, vaults, falls 9.2. Vaults, falls, okay, 9.2. You do 2 vaults, the best one counts. 2 ass landings, score 9.2. She does not yet know. They won't know for another hour or 2. She finds out 4 months later that 9.2 was just enough to go into gold medal position. But they don't know that at the time. Carrie Strug comes up, the last one up. She vaults, sprains her ankle, lands on her ass. She honestly thinks she needs a good vault in order to win the gold. But, and Moceanu agrees with me when I say this, according to the rules, they can legally disqualify the Americans if she doesn't play. Now, in theory, if you're at the Olympics and one of the athletes, it could be any sport, one of the athletes falls, shatters a leg in a million pieces, and the bone is coming through the skin, that athlete can legally withdraw without penalty. Or if an athlete gets a phone call that their mother was in a car accident back home and is in critical condition and may die, and they have to leave immediately and fly home, they can do so without penalty. The Olympic Committee allows you to withdraw under catastrophic circumstances without penalty. But if you refuse to play unless it's literally catastrophic, they could at one point in time legally say, you know what, the whole team fails, the whole team lost. You get the lowest possible score, you won't get a 0, you will go home. You will fail. You fucked up. There's no catastrophe, you fucked up. Simone Biles comes back to the 2020-21 games, stumbles on the vault, and withdraws. She withdraws. Now, I don't know if the Olympic Committee changed the rules or if the Olympic Committee went soft on her. But the American team was still allowed to compete. And they won a silver medal. And even though Simone dropped out of the competition, they gave her a silver medal. She got a door prize. She got a silver medal from the Olympics for doing literally nothing but dropping out and failing. Now, imagine if one of the other girls who did not make the team could have gone on the team and competed. But Simone took her spot away from her. And someone said she wasn't there mentally, or someone said she was upset about her aunt that died a couple months ago, whatever. Let's talk about me for a minute. My mother's old captain had a very rare form of arthritis. She was put in the office because she couldn't be on the street anymore. And my mother met her, she was walking like Frankenstein because she had bad knees, bad feet, bad this, bad that. Okay? But she loved being a cop. She was passionate about police work. The greatest thing in the world is police work. She refused disability. And she stayed on the job for over 10 more years. Until finally, when she was working at another office, her and her sergeant, also a woman, were going to do a sex offender thing where they go to the knock on the sex offender's door. And they tell them, we got the police. We know who you are. We know what you did. Stay away from the schools. Stay away from the playgrounds. We will arrest you. Okay, and while she's walking on the sidewalk, she falls and shatters her ankle. Okay, now I'm disabled. Okay, over the next couple of years, her body deteriorated onto itself. Back surgery, neck surgery, spine surgery. She had a fucking halo on her head at one point in time. Months in the hospital, surgery here, surgery there. She can't swallow, she can't breathe. Her fucking body's fucked in degree. She never once complained. My mother got a text from her sister. She'd been in the hospital again. She had pneumonia. Now pneumonia is bad, but when your body is fucked up over time, like you're really fucked up, it's even worse. The text message said, "We're with her, we're losing her, we're with her now." And then I'm going to work about an hour later. I gas in my car. I wash my hands with that little sanitizing wipe. Get in the car. Yes, I have Bluetooth, but I haven't started the car yet, so my phone goes off without the Bluetooth. I'm still parked. Answer the phone. It's Mom, obviously. I didn't even need to answer it. I knew. Pick up the phone. The captain had died. And I'm fucking crying my eyes out. You have no idea how bad I'm crying. I drive to headquarters. Now, the headquarters was my old high school. The front 20% was gutted to be the police headquarters. The back 80% was demolished and rebuilt to be the courthouse and the jail. I had to walk past the door where her and my mother walked out every day. I had to walk past the front entrance, which used to be my high school entrance, where my cousin-in-law walked in and out of every day, who later went to Vietnam and got 2 Bronze Stars with valor. Where one of our teachers, who had served the Army Pacific Theater, got the Silver Star in Okinawa, even though I didn't know at the time, I found years later. Okay, the building itself is just a monument to heroism and courage. Okay, in fact, when it became the police headquarters, less badass men went in there, put it that way. I have to walk in front of the hospital's across the street. And in front of the hospital where her dead body is, the hospital where I once saved the heart attack victim's life. I got to walk around the corner, and from down the block or down the hill, I got to look up and I get to see the corner of the hospital. And I have to work for the entire afternoon shift, and I have a dozen or more buses, 100 more kids, elderly, disabled. I have all this shit to do. I got to move emergency vehicles. I got to do all this shit. I got to pay attention. I got to function. And I'm just fucking hysterical crying. And I thought to myself, this is what would calm me down. I said, take a deep breath. And I said, you are crying your fucking eyes out about a woman who never in her life tolerated failure. If there's no way in hell you're going to get relief down there. So if you don't go down there, no one's going to be down there. And even if you could get a relief is a patrolman who has to stop doing his job and do your job for you. How would she feel about that? And I said to myself, in all these years, I never dishonored her once. I won't dishonor her now. And I went down and I did my job. Now let's talk about a man who's even better than I am. Let's go back to World War II. Thomas Sullivan. I don't know if he was in World War I. He might have been, because most guys were back then. Thomas Sullivan had 6 children. He had a daughter and 5 consecutive sons. His 2 older sons had been in the Navy in peacetime. They came home from the Navy after that. When Pearl Harbor was bombed, his daughter's fiance was killed in Arizona. His 2 older sons went back to the Navy. His 3 younger sons followed them. They were in a battle. Your older son was injured in the battle. The ship survived the battle. The next day, the older son is staying next to the man who, by mere coincidence, would be the last man alive on the ship. He's obviously dead now. They were torpedoed. The 3 younger sons are down below. They're killed immediately. The 2 older sons were up top deck. They go overboard into the rafts. The second oldest brother died of his injuries a few days later. Between injuries, delirium, heat stroke, all that bull, he died. The oldest brother, suffering from delirium, starvation, dehydration, heat stroke, depression, hallucination, he tells his buddy, I'm gonna swim to shore. He dives in the water and gets eaten by a shark. Okay? They hear that there's a problem and maybe one of the sons was killed. Keep in mind that communication is nowhere near as good as it is now. Keep in mind that this was the greatest conflict in human history. So messages travel slowly. They wrote a letter to the Navy, a few letters to the Navy. We heard there was a problem with our son's ship. What happened to the ship? What happened to the sons? They get an officer and a chaplain at the door. The officer and the chaplain tell them in uncertain terms, all 5 are gone. Now, let's talk about this for a minute. They now acknowledge their daughter is the only living child now. All 5 sons are dead. All at once. Their younger son was married. His wife is a widow at like 19 or 20 years old. She legally can't even drink yet. And she legally can't even vote yet because she's not 21 yet to vote. Yet even before she can drink, before she can vote legally in the United States, she's a widow. Their grandson has no father. Within 5 minutes of taking all that in, the father told his wife, I have to go to work. His job during the war was driving the supply train, was working on the supply train that brought any supply you could imagine to the troops. You had to go from here to there. The supply train, these massive trains, has to move all this shit across the country, has to go to ships to go overseas. Okay, everything from socks to machine guns is on these trains. Okay? And he told his wife and his daughter-in-law. No, so his wife, his daughter, and his daughter-in-law. If I don't go to work, someone else's son is gonna die. And he went to work that day. And for the entire duration of the war, not one train was late on his account. Not one train. He went to work every single day for the entire duration of the war. Okay? So don't give me this shit where you couldn't focus your mind. Okay? And on top of that, you take a medal. After you quit the team, you take the fucking medal anyway. Okay? People have like, oh my God, what a hero. Fuck her, okay? Fuck her. Okay? Because if your store was burned down in the Biles riot, okay? If your father, your brother was killed in a Biles riot, she supports that shit. But on top of that, she turns her back on her country on foreign soil. So you know what? She can go fuck herself as far as I'm concerned. She's fucking history. Thank you.